Hello, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Denmark's plan for a bleak isle to keep asylum seekers away from the rest of the population. Jacking your jewelers for lols and likes. We tell you about a viral trend from China. Fixing a hole in space in a capsule. Cool. At the top of our newsfeed, Denmark. Now, people have been protesting against plans there to start keeping people who've had their asylum applications rejected on a remote island. Here's the story.
We are facing a government that's actually deliberately coercing and attempting to pressure refugees back into the same conflicts that sent them here.
People like us here, and I have a lot of friends. I go to school. Like, I had a new family here in Denmark, so I don't think it's so difficult to be here.
Well, our Francis is in Denmark and sent us this from near Lindholm Island.
At the moment, as deepest winter sets into Denmark, this is a rather grim and foreboding place. This is the island that we're talking about. It's called Lindholm. It's some 4 kilometers offshore. This is a Baltic inlet, and it's a place that has been used in the past for the testing of infectious diseases on pigs, on cows. If it is used to house migrants, and that is the plan, that place is going to have to be decontaminated and it's going to be expensive. This is the area that it's located in. There's a small town just down the coast here. We've seen the odd ferry that's come across the water, but the government say that if they house people there, the ferries will be restricted and people will have to spend the night on that island. It does seem at the moment a rather grim place to be putting people, and that is the idea. This is a Danish minority government. That's not unusual in this country. But Prime Minister Rasmussen is being propped up by the Danish People's Party. They are anti-immigration, anti-multiculturalism, and they have this plan, this idea. It's part of the horse trading over a new budget deal to create this location. That island out there by 2021, Lindholm Island, to be somewhere to house people who failed to get asylum status in this country but can't go back to their own country for obvious reasons. There are 30,000 Syrians, for example, in Denmark alone. If it happens, and there's been a lot of opposition to it, it'll take 3 years to put together, and it's going to be expensive.
Well, thou shalt not steal, unless it's for lols and you're in China. Have a look at the latest dumb internet trend. a professor in the United States, set a task for his students to make a viral video, and one group smashed it. Well, they put this up. As you can see, it looks pretty pathetic. They wrote, "My professor threw a party instead of having a final, and no one showed up. Tear emoji, broken heart emoji." And the tweet banged. It now has more than 7 million views. Only problem, it was all fake. Now, what the students had realized, wittingly or not, is that people on the internet are gullible, especially when it comes to emotion. This is what the professor who set the task said.
"I'm gratified by all the well wishes, but this video was made as part of an assignment. It is fake. The point of the assignment is to go viral in order to study viralness, especially as it plays on the emotions in the emotional medium of video."
And you probably won't be surprised to hear that the clarification tweet has not gone viral, which tells us people don't actually want to hear the truth, and perhaps they feel dumb when being caught out. Now, every year, an influential American magazine publishes its pick for Person of the Year, and every year it gets a conversation going. 2018 is no exception. Time magazine has revealed its Person of the Year, but it's not just him. They call them the Guardians. Their names are Wallone, Kwasou, Maria Ressa, the Capital Gazette, and Jamal Khashoggi. Time calls them the protectors of truth. The focus is on journalists who've been killed or imprisoned across the globe, people who've spoken out. People like Wallone and Kwasou, jailed by the government of Myanmar after they revealed the killing of at least 10 Rohingya men by the Myanmar military. Maria Ressa, who through her news site Rappler has been telling the world about the extrajudicial killing of 12,000 people in the Philippines who are drug users or suspected of being drug dealers. There are also the 5 journalists of the Capital Gazette in Annapolis in the United States. They were killed by a man who didn't like their coverage of his harassment of a former classmate. And Jamal Khashoggi was killed in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He'd written about his desire for real reform, for real freedom of speech in Saudi Arabia, and was silenced. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, there are currently 262 journalists in prisons around the world. They say at least 52 have been killed so far in 2018. Time magazine says journalists are now more essential than ever, as democracy and truth seem to be in retreat all around the world. Now, Google have been out defending themselves after loads of recent bad headlines. They had the sexual harassment at their workplaces, their failure to keep people's data safe, and plans to build a censored search engine in China. Now, I could go on, but I won't. Kate will.
Mr. Pichai was being quizzed by members of the House Judiciary Committee about the way his tech firm runs its business. Google was accused of having programmed bias against conservative views into its algorithms. But Mr. Pichai strongly denied those accusations. He told lawmakers there were more than 3 trillion Google searches last year, and that daily 15% of searches have never even been seen before, and that simply they do not manually intervene on any particular search results. But that wasn't enough for Representative Steve King of Iowa, who demanded the names of employees who work on the company's search algorithm, saying he wants to scour their social media to see if they're biased against conservatives. He also created one of the moments most talked about online when he asked why he sees unwelcome news popping up on his iPhone, to which Mr. Pichai replied, "Congressman, iPhone is made by a different company." Another clip from the hearing that's been shared a lot is Mr. Pichai being asked to explain why a picture of President Trump comes up in Google Images when people search the term idiot. He was also questioned extensively about the amount of information that Google collects and what it does with all that data. Many times he said that it gave people choices about what it collected and that it regularly reminded them about their privacy settings. He said the company doesn't sell that data, but he carefully avoided the question of how the company uses such data in the practice of selling advertising. So although lawmakers asked some pointed questions, they also lauded Google as the story of the American dream, with some assuring Mr. Pichai that they did not want to burden his industry with regulations.
All right, let's spin around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. A gunman has killed 3 people at a Christmas market in the French city of Strasbourg. He's now on the run after apparently exchanging shots with the police. Reports say he was injured in that exchange of fire. As well as the 3 deaths, at least 12 others were injured by him. The gunman was known to the security services. The Egyptian government are so scared of their people rising up against them, they have restricted the sale of yellow high-visibility vests. They fear that people in Egypt will be inspired by the success of the French protesters who Gilets Jaunes movement forced the government there to change some of its policies. The forward-thinking business in Australia has led to a huge drop in plastic bag usage. The country's 2 largest supermarkets are called Coles and Woolworths. They brought in bans in the summer, and despite some resistance, it appears the move is gaining support. Now, there is no national level ban on single-use bags in Australia, but there are 32 other countries around the world, 18 of which are in Africa, which do have a ban in place. A dog is for life, not just for Christmas. So Europe's largest animal shelter is banning the adoption of pets during the festive period to, in their words, stop them from being dumped back at the shelter once their novelty has worn off. Amazingly, some people still think that animals are a good gift for someone. They are not. Like something out of a chocolate lover's dreams or nightmares, this happened in Werl in Germany. A ton of deliciousness flowed from the Dreimeister factory and froze solid once it hit the street. It's been cleaned up by fire crews whose families will now be probably looking up for bits of road in any chockies they're given this Christmas. Well, it seems the baller Steph Curry is great on the court, but a bit of a conspiracy weirdo. He doesn't think that human beings have been to the moon. He said so in a podcast while talking with some other basketball players, and this guy has kids. So after his nonsense, NASA, who sent men to the moon 6 times in the late 60s and early 70s, invited Mr. Curry to their Johnson Space Center to see the evidence. People online were writing things like this. I love watching you play, but kids are joking about your grip on reality with your bizarre belief the NASA moon missions never happened. Kids look up to you, not cool. And this? Calling into question the greatest accomplishment in human history does such an incredible disservice to the men and women who sacrificed so much to get us to the moon. It's incredibly irresponsible for someone with your platform to ignore facts. Now, a hole in the space station sounds like bad times, so the Russians set out to fix it and filmed it all so we can see how cool it looked.
I think you can do that.
The Russians are trying to solve a mystery in space. To do that, they've taken a 7-hour spacewalk while wielding sharp objects.
Move it away further.
Oleg Kononenko and Sergei Prokofiev are searching for a mysterious hole that caused a loss of air pressure on the International Space Station in August. Several hours into the spacewalk, the cosmonauts began to collect samples from a Russian Soyuz capsule docked at the ISS. It's not clear what caused the hole. It was initially thought the cause could have been a tiny meteorite, but the head of Russia's space agency later went so far as to say it might have been sabotage.
What is this? A production defect or some premeditated actions? We're checking the Earth version, but there is another version that we do not rule out: deliberate interference in space.
Another possibility is it could simply be a manufacturing defect or accident. But until the samples the 2 cosmonauts gathered are taken to Earth, no one can say for sure.
And finally, today's Animals Doing Stuff is one for all you cat and dog lovers out there. It's a great bit of video that is going very, very viral. Now, I don't really need to explain much of what's going on here. A very clever doggo has worked out how to make that annoying cat that lives in its house useful. Not only is it getting an ear clean, a hard thing to do if you're a dog, I imagine, which is making it very happy. It's also made the millions who've seen the video very happy at its smiling face and its wagging tail. NewsFeed does like. And that is all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter and YouTube. Follow and subscribe. See you again soon.